Right now, as you're watching this video, 10 countries are literally one Japanese decision away from complete economic collapse. And if you think your country is safe from this terrifying reality, you're about to discover just how wrong you are. I'm talking about dependencies so deep, so critical, that a single factory closure in Japan could trigger mass unemployment, infrastructure failure, and economic chaos across the globe. The 2023 World Bank Dependency Index revealed something that should terrify every world leader. And it's happening right under our noses. Let's start with number 10. And trust me, by the time we reach number 1, you'll never look at global economics the same way again. Number 10, Philippines. 87% of the Philippines manufacturing sector depends on Japanese precision components. Let me put that in perspective for you. That's not just important, that's survival-level dependence. Maria Santos worked at an electronics factory in Manila for 15 years. She thought her job was secure until March 2011. The Japanese tsunami hit, and within 72 hours, her factory floor went silent. No components meant no production. No production meant 12,000 workers went home with empty pockets. According to Jetro's 2023 report, this $43 billion trade dependency means the Philippines literally cannot function without Japanese supply chains. Maria's story? It played out in thousands of factories across the country. But here's what's terrifying. Maria's experience was just a warning shot, because our next country learned that lesson the hard way. Number 9, Thailand. When Toyota sneezes, Thailand catches pneumonia. 2.3 million jobs gone overnight if Japan decides to pull the plug. Picture this. Somkai's grandfather started working for a Japanese auto parts company in 1985. His father took over in 2010. Somchai joined in 2018, thinking he'd continue the family tradition. Then the 2022 semiconductor shortage hit. 3 generations of expertise suddenly worthless. The Thailand Board of Investment's 2024 data shows something shocking. 74% of their automotive sector depends entirely on Japanese technology and investment. That's not partnership, that's economic hostage-taking. Thailand learned to diversify the hard way. But our next country never saw the trap coming. Number 8, Vietnam. Here's what blew my mind. While everyone's talking about Vietnam's electronics boom, 94% of their exports use Japanese technology. Most people think it's all about China. They're dead wrong. The Nguyen family built a semiconductor factory in Ho Chi Minh City. Business was booming until Japanese suppliers couldn't deliver during the 2021 chip crisis. Their $50 million investment became worthless metal and concrete in 6 months. The Vietnam Electronics Association's 2023 study revealed the brutal truth. Without Japanese precision equipment and materials, Vietnam's electronics miracle disappears overnight. The Nguyen family story repeated across 15,000 factories. Vietnam's adapting fast, learning from others' mistakes. But our next country? They couldn't adapt quickly enough. Number 7, Indonesia. Walk through Jakarta and look up. Every skyscraper, every bridge, every piece of infrastructure, 76% of it built with Japanese steel and engineering. Budi ran Indonesia's largest construction company. His projects stretched across 3 islands. When Japanese steel prices spiked in 2023, his empire crumbled. Not because of bad business, because his entire industry depended on one source. The Indonesian Steel Association's 2024 report shows the terrifying reality. Japanese companies control the technology to make the steel that builds Indonesia's future. Without Japan, Indonesia's infrastructure development stops completely. Budi's learning to work with multiple suppliers now. But wait until you see what Japan controls in our next country. Number 6, Malaysia. Without Japanese precision machinery, 89% of Malaysia's factories would shut down within a week. Not slow down, shut down completely. Lim Wei built an electronics empire over 20 years. 50,000 employees across Malaysia depended on his factories. When Japanese machine suppliers faced COVID restrictions in 2020, Lim's entire operation ground to a halt in 72 hours. But the machines that made everything possible could only be serviced by Japanese technicians. The Malaysian Industrial Development Authority's 2023 data reveals something shocking. Malaysia's industrial revolution is entirely dependent on Japanese automation. No Japanese machines means no Malaysian manufacturing. Smart companies are now learning to diversify suppliers, creating backup plans for critical equipment. Malaysia's catching on fast, but our next country walked into the trap with eyes wide open. Number 5, Taiwan. Everyone talks about Taiwan's semiconductor dominance. Nobody mentions that 91% of the equipment making those chips comes from Japan. Chun worked as a supplier to TSMC, the world's biggest chip manufacturer. He thought semiconductors made Taiwan invincible. Then the 2024 Hualien earthquake disrupted Japanese supply chains for just 2 weeks. Chun watched his orders disappear, his workers sent home, his industry holding its breath. The Taiwan Semiconductor Industry Association's 2024 report dropped a bombshell. Taiwan's chip supremacy exists only because Japan allows it to exist. Every advanced chip, every breakthrough technology depends on Japanese precision equipment. It's like being the world's best chef, but needing someone else to provide your kitchen. Taiwan's semiconductor miracle? It's built on Japanese foundations. Taiwan's starting to realize how exposed they are. But our next country's dependency will shock you, because it's not even in Asia. Number 4, Australia. Australia, the land of independence, natural resources, and she'll be right attitude, depends on Japanese investment for 2.4 million jobs. James Mitchell ran a mining operation in Western Australia. Iron, or coal, the stuff that built modern Australia. When Japanese companies restructured their investments in 2023, James's mine became unprofitable overnight. Not because there were no Japanese buyers willing to pay fair prices. The Australian Bureau of Statistics 2023 foreign investment data reveals something that should terrify every Australian. Japanese companies don't just buy Australian resources, they control the entire value chain. From mining equipment to processing facilities to shipping logistics. James's mine still sits idle. He's learning that resource wealth means nothing without someone willing to buy it at sustainable prices. Australia's finally waking up to supply chain vulnerabilities. But country number 3? They're still in complete denial. Number 3, Brazil. 67% of Brazil's industrial automation comes from Japanese companies. When those systems fail, Brazil's industrial heart stops beating. Carlos managed Brazil's largest automotive plant. 15,000 workers, state-of-the-art robotics, the pride of Brazilian manufacturing. When Japanese automation systems needed updates during the 2022 cybersecurity crisis, Carlos watched his assembly lines fall silent. No Japanese technicians meant no production. No production meant empty paychecks for thousands of families. The Brazilian Development Bank's 2024 automation study revealed the harsh truth. Brazil's industrial modernization created complete dependence on Japanese technology. Every robot, every precision tool, every automated system traces back to Japan. Picture walking through Carlos's factory today. Massive halls filled with silent machines, all waiting for Japanese approval to restart. That's Brazil's industrial reality. Brazil's scrambling to develop local alternatives. But it's like trying to reinvent the wheel while your car is already broken down. Speaking of broken down, country number 2 has essentially given up trying to escape this trap. Number 2, South Korea. Here's the ultimate irony. The country that competes most fiercely with Japan needs Japan most desperately. 73% of South Korea's critical materials come from their biggest rival. Park Min-joon supplied components to Samsung during the 2019 Japan-Korea trade war. When Japan restricted exports of critical chemicals, Park watched South Korea's entire semiconductor industry panic. Billion-dollar factories faced shutdown because Japan controlled the materials that made Korean innovation possible. The Korean Development Bank's 2023 supply chain analysis exposed the uncomfortable truth. Despite decades of rivalry and competition, South Korea's economy would collapse without Japanese materials, equipment, and technology. It's like being in a boxing match where your opponent controls your water supply. Park's company survived by stockpiling materials, but the message was clear: Korea's success exists at Japan's discretion. Korea is trapped in this dependency despite decades of trying to escape it. But our number one country will absolutely blow your mind. Number 1, United States. The world's superpower, the global hegemon, the country that claims to need nobody. Completely helpless without Japan. 84% of America's rare earth processing equipment comes from Japan. Without these machines, America's green energy revolution stops. Electric vehicles, wind turbines, solar panels, advanced weapons systems, all dependent on Japanese technology. Robert Thompson managed Tesla's Nevada Gigafactory supply chain. He thought American innovation could overcome any challenge until the 2023 rare earth processing crisis hit. Japanese suppliers couldn't deliver specialized equipment for 6 months. Robert watched America's most advanced manufacturing facility operate at 30% capacity. The U.S. Department of Commerce's 2024 Critical Minerals Report revealed America's Achilles heel. For all its military might and technological prowess, America cannot process the materials that power its own future without Japanese equipment. Imagine the Pentagon's nightmare scenario. Advanced weapons systems sitting useless because Japan controls the machines that process their critical components. That's not science fiction. That's America's current reality. Robert's facility finally got back to full production, but only after agreeing to Japanese terms, Japanese timelines, Japanese priorities. Countries are starting to wake up to these dependencies. Some are developing strategic independence initiatives, diversifying suppliers, building domestic capabilities. Others are doubling down on partnerships, accepting interdependence as the price of efficiency. But here's the question that's keeping world leaders awake at night. The same question that should be haunting every economist and policymaker watching this video. Should countries risk everything for maximum efficiency or pay the massive price for true independence? And here's what I really want to know. Which of these countries shock you the most? More importantly, which country do you think will be next to join this list of Japanese dependencies? Because if this video taught you anything, it should be this. In our interconnected world, no country is truly independent. And Japan? Japan might just be the most important country you never think about. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and your insights might just predict the next global economic shift.